everyone and welcome to today's race. We are here at Fuji in the iRacing Prototype Challenge. I'm taking out the BMW as I'm still revisiting some of the GTPs I've driven in the past, but I've now changed with the iRacing tyre update, and it's certainly made a big difference around here at Fuji, which is definitely one of my most challenging tracks. And whilst I have put some practice in for today's race, the qualifying has been so tight between me and the other cars ahead of us. There was less than 5 tenths between the P1 and me down in P5. So it's going to be a very close packed race today. Now the lead car is setting the pace as the pace car pulls into the pits. And I'm just going to be ready and watching the car just in front of the Akira. And they're off, so we put the foot down. You can see straight away the TC struggling to contain the power on these cold tyres. We managed to get a good enough launch, however that Ferrari to our left has done better and covers us off into turn 1. I'm expecting a bit of carnage potentially, so I'm just carefully trying to stick to that inside as much as possible. However, so far there's been no incident. However, we still have cars down our inside here coming into this next lap down turn. So I do brake a little bit early just to see if I can find my way safely around the outside. And that Porsche gets ahead of us now into 100R. I'm still being very careful on these cold tyres. As you can see, it's so easy to go wide like that Acura just did. And now we've got this yellow Ferrari coming down our inside into the next left-hand turn. Did catch me a little off guard, so I did turn it too sharp there and we banged doors. However, it's nothing too serious. We are now side by side coming down the hill. However, I have a big moment there. Just about saving it using that little trick there. However, we are now down several positions, but there is more incidents ahead of us there. You can see cars going off to the left and across the grass. I've just got to try and find my way through here, try and stay far right as possible, which works as we emerge into the infamous final sector at Fuji. I get my nose down the inside of the yellow Ferrari of Hans, and there is more contact between us. However, they're able to save it, and we are now still side by side into the second to last corner. I do back out a little bit here, as I just really want to follow him through with how difficult it is through this technical sector, but you can see he goes deep there, so I tried down his inside, leaving the space, but that gives him the better drive, especially helped by the all-wheel drive system of the Ferrari. He's able to get ahead of us here. I do try to tuck in behind him, however he avoids me, not wanting to give me that slipstream, but I can still get some of the side drive. As you can see here, the BMW is no slouch in a straight line. As we come into turn 1, I do still try and be a bit careful as the tyres are not fully up to temperature. You can see that Acura falling foul of the same thing. And we now have Juan behind us in the Cadillac, who's going to start putting pressure on us into this second lap. As I'm still really just trying to find my way through Haynes here, because I can feel definitely that I am faster than they are. But you can see there's still a lot of struggle in these tyres, getting them up to temperature. Not helped by the dirty air, and Juan sees the opportunity there to try and dive down the inside. I just have to leave him the space and again try and focus on getting a better exit whilst Han is struggling in front of us. You see, he had a big moment there, thankfully able to save it. And we are able to catch back up to him into the Dunlop curve, but Juan is once again sending it down our inside, so I have to leave him the space, and again I can get a much better drive there on that outside. And we're entering what actually seemed to be my strongest sector, but Juan once more tries to make an ambitious send, but that gap was always going to close as I turned in for the corner, and now Juan is not very happy with me as he thinks I've turned in there to try and block him. However, my aim there was just simply to make the apex on these cold tyres. But we have now at least managed to survive this second lap here at Fuji, and what a start it has been. We're going to take a moment as things calm down, coming down the main straight to have a look at what happened on that first lap. Starting off at lap 1, turn 1 on these cold tyres, I have to congratulate everyone. It's been one of the few times this week I've seen everyone make this corner with no major incidents. At least until our little moments here coming across that curve there, unsettling the car on the cold tyres. We just about save it using that braking technique in order to correct the spin, but we still gave this red Ferrari behind us a big scare, which then led into the next big incident. You can see here that yellow Ferrari locking up, which starts a major chain reaction here with all the cars cutting across the grass there, and the race director is certainly not going to be happy here. As we watch some of these rejoins, they completely ignore the escape road and rejoin in the middle of the chicane straight into the oncoming traffic. You can see they're almost 4 wide for a moment there. Incredibly lucky there were no major incidents. At least until our second bit of contact with Hans. As you can see here, I'm just trying to get to that apex, but we tap his outside corner. He's able to save it, thankfully, but that does then push that red Ferrari off. But it then leads us into some nice side-by-side action. Though, as I said, I back out because I really just wanted to follow him through. But when the opportunity presented itself, I did try to take that inside line. But the Ferrari is just so strong on those drives out of the corner, especially on the cold tyres. Now we're rejoining exactly where we left off on lap 3. We have Juan right behind, trying to put us under pressure, but I'm focusing on the two Ferraris ahead as I want to follow Hans through on that inside, but then miss Juan making a very late braking move there, and there's contact between the two Ferraris, so I just try to stay down the inside as best as I can, and as the dust settles we got the position, and Juan has lost several from that silly move that they made, which we thankfully did not get caught up in, so I can now start focusing on Hans in front of us, as I want to get past them as soon as possible to not let the cars in front get any further away if I'm to stand a chance of getting those positions back. After a big check up there as Hans overslows into that left-hand corner, I'm going to be mindful of that coming up because we have another heavy braking zone in the Dunlop. I'm just going to be watching to see what they do, though they go semi-defensive, maybe expecting a move from me, which then compromises them as they miss that apex coming into the chicane. We can see there's a big gaggle of cars behind us with Juan still involved, so I have to do this move sooner rather than later. So I'm using everything I've got now to try and close up to Hans in this last sector. I'm just floating the car through these corners and getting on the power as soon as I feel the traction is there. But Hans is being helped by that all-wheel drive system in the Ferrari, and I'm still struggling as I am on a single screen here, so I'm just relying on that rubbered in line to gauge when I need to turn in. But we kept close enough, so now into turn 1 I show my nose, just seeing if I can get a reaction out of him, and it's worked for us. As you can see, has a little lock up there going deep into the corner, which gives us the inside corner and allows us to make that move. Then later on in lap 5 we've managed to catch up to two of these cars which have been battling fiercely over the course of the lap, and it's about to come to a crescendo as we watch the Cadillac make an ambitious move down the inside. They lock up and go very deep into the chicane, which is going to give us another position and put us right in behind Dennis in that Acura. It wasn't going to be for another lap until I was close enough to really start battling him, as Dennis was still quite fast in that Acura. So I was really having to push with everything I had in order to keep up, and it was only now that he makes a mistake through 100R that I'm now really beneath his rear wing. So I'm going to start seeing if I can get an opportunity and put the pressure on him to make more of those mistakes. So I'm just starting to shark about here now. I want to show my nose as much as possible into Dunlop, like I might try and make a move down the inside. However, Dennis is staying very cool here, though he does go a little deep again, which then compromises him in the chicane, so I have to check up a little there, and that gives him a bit of a breather into the hill climb, though I'm able to now really balance the car a lot better. I'm still floating it through each corner, but it just feels so much nicer. But I have to still respect the fact that I have to be careful on the power. As you can see, Dennis is wavering slightly, trying to really put the power down in that Acura, though he is also going to be suffering from some of the turbo lag that car has through that section. But we stay close enough, so coming into turn 1 once again, I'm going to just show my nose. But Dennis again is very cool. You can see he actually extended that entry into turn 1 in order to make sure he did not lose too much momentum, which has worked out very nicely for him there. So as again, I just have to settle in behind me for him and keep that pressure on, though he does make a mistake there. And now I see an opportunity down the inside of 100R. A very dangerous move, so I stay as far to the inside, cutting the grass almost, making sure I leave enough space for him. But as we come through the left-hand corner, we are ahead of Dennis now, and we've secured the position, so I can start trying to push away and try to catch up to Yuki. Now we can see just how tight this was between me and Dennis. I did my best to stay to that inside, and you can see Dennis did try to leave the space on the outside perhaps too much, which cost him a lot of his momentum and helped us in getting that position. And whilst me and Dennis had been fighting, there was this big incident into turn 1. We're on board with that Cadillac looking down the inside, but the defender made a very late move there, which, as we're going to see, launches him into this unsuspecting driver, just going about his day when suddenly a Cadillac comes careering into him. That's going to be the end of all their races, sadly, with the amount of damage they've taken there. But we've managed to keep pushing on in lap 13, and you can see we've actually set the fastest lap of the race there. We're going into the 29s, which is quite an accomplishment on these fixed setups. and we've managed to catch up to Yuki, a similarly matched driver, though he is 4K, so I know I'm in for quite a battle here if I want to get P5 back, so I at least finish where I started. But I've still got to keep pushing here. I'm still only just under a second behind him, so if I want to get a good amount of slipstream on that main straight, I need to close up in the last sector, so I'm going to really be pushing here. You can see even into the Dunlop corner I managed to get a 10th back on him, and now through the last sector, climbing the hill of Mount Fuji. It feels like, having done this for nearly 13 laps now, we are really just trying to nail every single part of this, and you can see it's worked just about, as we're now 5 tenths behind Yuki coming onto the main straight. Though I do get a bad exit here, having gone a little deep. However, you can see Yuki had a big wiggle on there, trying to get on the power aggressively. Now we can settle in behind him. We are 3 tenths behind. This is going to be onto the last lap of the race as well now, so it's everything to play for. I know my main opportunity is going to be into turn 1, so once more I'm going to show my nose. Going to be late on the brakes here, and Yuki does really well. He gives us space on the inside, but there is contact on the outside there. We're now side by side, so once more I'm going to try and back out of this corner here, try and set up for a better exit. But I get put off by Yuki sweeping in front of me, so I do lose a little bit of ground to him there. And there's some dirty air through 100R, so I'm struggling with understeer here, which is giving him all the space he needs to try and keep me at bay. So now I need to get a good exit, and we have managed to do so out of that left-hand corner. I might have an opportunity here to go down his inside at the Dunlop corner. Let's just see how much I'm fighting, just trying to stay close to him. You can see he's matching me under braking, even through into the chicane here. We're so close, nose to tail. So it's all going to come down to this last sector, and Yuki is now defending to the inside. He does not want to let me have an opportunity. He's going to make the BMW as wide as possible. As you can see here, he drives that outside here, knowing that I do not have the overlap, so he wants to make sure I do not have an opportunity. So I'm just going to try and set up for as best of an exit as possible in this last corner. But we barely just about get the same exit as Yuki, so unless there is a miracle in the slipstream, I'm just going to have to settle in for a P6 finish here. But considering everything that's happened in this race, I'm going to be very pleased with that. And I had a fantastic battle with Yuki at the end there.
P6, that's the end of the race. Bad luck, mate.
So whilst that was not the result we had been hoping for today, this was still a brilliant end of race battle with Yuki. I was pleased at the fact that I could both keep up with and battle a 4K driver, so I've got some hope in the future I can get not just up to 3K like I was before, but maybe past that into 4K if I'm able to find and keep this pace that I've shown here at Fuji. And certainly this track has been a challenge for me this entire week, but with a bit of practice I've shown that I can do better around here, and hopefully I can do the same again in the future. So I hope you have all enjoyed today's race. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, as that really helps me on the channel, and I hope to see you all again next time.